chairs. Where's Jessica? See, if you had removed those chairs, those people right there wouldn't have had seats. I saw you. We're growing, Soul City. You're growing. We're expanding. We're becoming more of the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for Will's song this morning. It's Breathe, right, is the name of the song. And what occurred to me after I unhooked myself from his melodic voice and just leaned in, to the thing that was behind Will. Because I'm interested in the thing that's behind the brilliance. That there's something that inspires Will, and I've never met him before today, but I know what creation is. And there is something that's behind him that gives him the inspiration that inspired him around the song Breathe. And what came to me is like, what better spiritual song can we start with? There are many, some people have opinions, but in this moment, than to be aware of the breath. Because there is no greater reminder of life than the breath. There is no clearer awareness and more acute attention grabber than when we cannot hold the breath. All of the indigenous teachings and all of the indigenous cultures and all of the sacred writings speak at some point of when God breathed into humanity. It gave the breath of life into humanity. And those of us who have sat bedside by loved ones as they've made their transition, our mothers, our fathers, our cousins, our spouses, our friends, we would give anything at times to just feel their breath again. Mm-hmm. And so, Will, thank you so much for that. There's a sacredness in the breath that even in our own way, we just let it happen. Something's happening here. Everything that's supposed to be happening is happening here. We're leaning all the way into it. We're supporting each other right now. In this moment, we're all in the right place at the right time with the right people. Nothing's missing. It's going to flow. It's going to happen. And you're supporting each other by knowing that. Knowing that there's nothing wrong. Knowing that we are at the precise access point to enter into this initiation. And I'm going to talk more about that today. My topic is A.L.L.I.N. A living legacy. Initiate now. A living legacy. Initiate now. We'll come back to that. But the reality is in this moment, we have come together from wherever we have been before now, and we've decided that we want to catch a word. So I've got a word for you. Matter of fact, the divine has a word for you. And I started with the idea of what's the simplest way we become aware of that there is something more than us? Like, did you have a moment in your life where you realized that life was more than Legos, maybe? Or maybe a little bit more than building blocks, or a Barbie house, or baseball, or football, or soccer. And there just was a moment where the parents or your teachers started to explain to you some things that they really felt like they could understand. And they told you about the procedures of photosynthesis, and you kind of learn. I loved driving in today, and it actually looks like fall in certain places around here. It's so cute. We're in Southern California, and somebody decided they were going to plant some real trees that changed, so we know what time of the year it is around here. In my neighborhood, not so much. In Los Angeles, it's green on green on green. Whatever. But it was so beautiful just seeing it, and I remember catching an awareness as a kid, and never really asking the question, but I know they talked about it. And I know that there's just a moment, maybe for you, it was the ocean. Maybe there was that moment where if you've ever been either at the beach, at the edge, and you're just looking at what appears to be infinity. Maybe it was at nighttime, and you were just like, you had an idea of what stars were, and then inside of you, connected to the stars. And maybe you just haven't noted it and you don't remember it. But it's happening to us all of the time if we're willing to listen. This presence that we talk about is everywhere. It is everyone, even, them too. Whoever your them was. Because some people don't seem anything like the presence of God. And if you caught me sometimes driving in the 405 and you were listening in on that radio, you might have thought I was one of those people too. Oh yeah, look at Jason go. He can get down with the best of them. But the reality is, there is a presence of love that since humanity began to evolve in creation, that's been seeking to have us to become more intelligent. And that intelligence has tried to reveal itself to us by gifting us intelligence. You see how it works? Because there is an intelligence that is unfolding as the universe, it is then revealing itself to us as our own intelligence. There is a certain science behind it all. That's what we call it now, right? We call it science. But it really is a way of seeing God more clearly. To see how it works. Because at the end of all of the science, they can never absolutely tell us how it started. Like the first moment, oh yeah, there was a big explosion in the universe. But what caused the explosion? Because, everybody knows that, that all of physics is telling us that, an object in motion stays in motion, but what set the object in motion? And so we don't have to call it God. We don't have to call it spirit. I can call it whatever I want because I'm a free being. And you should call it whatever you want. Call it Bob. Brilliant, omnipotent being. Or whatever works for you. The thing is, don't get hung up on the small stuff. Besides, you turn God around backwards, it's just dog. And now you're doing Randy Jackson, and that's a whole other thing. But you have to avail yourself to this presence. And really, many of us are seekers. We recognize that we want more, that there's more. The great explorers who traveled the world and who did everything that ended up as America, or as Germany, or as France, or as Europe, or as Australia, or as New Zealand. People explored our world. They saw that there was more out there, and then they covered the entire planet, and still there was a recognition that there is something more. And they left a legacy. Now, when I looked up legacy, because my relationship with Spirit is, I ask a question. Generally, it's propelled by Jessica and Patricia asking me what my topic is going to be for Sunday.
For the program.
Right, for the program. Oh yeah, we're going to get the program into this talk today. What's a church without a program? Free! And Jessica and Patricia said that she was being sloppy. It's like, did anybody see sloppy up here? No, it wasn't that thing over there. It was lively, it was fun. Did you feel the joy?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that exuberance, which is our theme for the month, right? So, we have this awareness of this term legacy. And when I get certain words, I want to look at them a little deeper. So I looked in the dictionary online, of course, because who uses a paper dictionary anymore? And I was a little disappointed by the first two definitions, because they seemed to be so materialistic that it was literally about money or monetary. And I'm aware of that definition. I tend to not think of that, though, with the word legacy. That's not what comes up to mind for me at first. And then it talked about, bequeathing property and things of that nature. And still, that's not what comes up for me when it comes to legacy. What comes up for me with legacy is that which exists now because of what has happened before. So America has many legacies. The United Kingdom has many legacies. Different cultures have many legacies. The Egyptians, the people of Kemet, of ancient Africa, the Greeks have a vibrant legacy. There are all of these things that we now have today because of what they did then. But when they were doing them, they were living it. And now we are living it through us now. But what are we doing with it now? The question we must ask ourselves continually is, where is the aliveness of our own being? What are we giving? What are we sharing? What are we expressing? What are the seeds that we are planting in this world? How is it being shaped and formed? And when we give up our breath, what will the world be like because we existed? It is an essential question that all of humanity must answer. I could care less about your political affiliation. I could care less about your economic status. But I want to know if you're interested in our world being better when you're gone. Nobody? Nobody?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try that again. Are you interested in the world being better when you leave? I mean, maybe you don't have anybody that you expect to be around here after you're gone. Maybe you expect to be the last one out. Not likely. But here's the thing. Each and every day we have opportunities. And you have taken an opportunity to be a part of this spiritual community in this particular area, to visit on this particular day. And really what I am recognizing in addition to legacy is that whatever you do, whether it's your job, raising children, raising your sister's children, your cousin's children, we're regularly hearing these very challenging stories about people, a very difficult situation to process. The other day was a story about a woman and her sister and their two kids. They were in the car driving down a highway, and they drove past a car where they were pulled over to the side of the road, hood up, and having some car trouble. A few months earlier, they had the same experience, and so they went out of their way in that moment and decided, we're going to pay it forward. The officer came and helped us in the middle of the night, dark. We don't want to leave those people. Let's pull over and help them. So they pull over. They begin helping the people with the car, but suddenly another car comes down the road. And unfortunately, there's two sisters. One sister goes left, one sister goes right, but one sister is not able to get out of the way of the car and is killed in an accident. By simply being everything that we tell people to be, right? Please be a good Samaritan. So now the sister is raising these two children. And it's a lot to process even in this moment as I tell you that this is a story. You may feel a particular way, and now what I would like to do is just take the feeling that you have, and I just want to turn it a little bit. And I want you to imagine that if your parents were to go, that they were going giving. And that the legacy that your mother has left you is a one of giving. That maybe I may have made a different decision if I knew it was going to cost you my life. You, my children, would not have me. But the one thing that you will always know about me, your mother, is that I gave my life in order to help somebody else. Not because I was running into a burglary or a fire or anything else, but just as a regular, ordinary citizen that didn't sign up necessarily for this, that, and the other, but I decided I was going to do it. That is a legacy. Mm-hmm. It is impossible to ignore. And yes, the challenge and the difficulty that those children will have is something we can recognize. We don't shy away from that, but we know that there is nothing impossible in this world. We have story after story of triumph, of being able to be more than any circumstance or situation. So one thing that we do when we just kind of take it and we turn it a little bit is we give ourselves an awareness that there is always something more. There is always something more possible. As you look around your life, what is your legacy? What are you taking on intentionally in order to make the world a better place. You said that you wanted the world to be a better place when you leave. A woman is at Agape today. Her name is Cynthia Kersey. Have you ever heard of her? She has an organization called the Unstoppable Foundation. Have you ever heard of it? The Unstoppable Foundation literally builds schools in different regions around different countries in Africa. Kenya was the one on the website that I saw this morning, because I was with Cynthia this morning. They were doing a fundraising event. I always go to Agape for meditation before I come here and lead meditation. So I make sure I get mine before I give you some. And she's made a really clear decision on what she's going to do with our life. And everybody has something that they can do. I was telling a friend the other day, they have kids, and I was saying, well, if you don't have kids, you do know you can still volunteer at a school. You do realize that teachers need help, and again, this isn't political, but if you're not going to allow teachers to suddenly deduct the money that they spend in the classroom, this is just a regular conversation. And so yes, teachers may lose their deductions for the school supplies that they provide, but businesses and corporations will still be able to deduct every single thing, even if they leave the country. So this is not political. This is just a very basic thing, because teachers in red states and blue states need to be able to deduct all the school supplies that they buy. Because the schools just don't have the resources. This is a very simple thing. Again, this is not political, but it's just a very simple, I can't wrap my mind around why you don't understand it. Not you, but people in Washington, D.C.
It's not political.
But the reality is, I don't like that legacy. Yes, I'm a former teacher. I got skin in the game. Any teachers in here?
Yeah.
I mean, and just thank you, of course. Any people who ever served in the armed forces in here? And thank you. I just really want us to understand that we are a united country. We are much more unified than anything on any of those political channels. All of them can go. Because our relationship is here.
Yeah.
In our community.
Yes.
We touch each other,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Paul? Okay, I touch you, right, Paul? Consent is important. It's a very high topic right now. Let's be clear.
Sharon's
All right, Paul? We're good? I talked to Sharon first. I got the wife's permission first. No, but really, legacy and the importance of it. But here's the thing. I talked about the mother who died in a car accident. The second part of a living legacy, the all-in, is initiate now. And so there's two kinds of initiations, right? There's two ways, well, multiple ways, but there's two ways generally that come to mind for me when it comes to initiate, is simply to begin. But I'm actually wanting you to recognize something that maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't necessarily see it in that particular way. 3.5 years ago when my father died, one of the things that Reverend Michael said to me was, you have been initiated. About a year and a half, 2 years before that, his mother had transitioned. His father is still alive, my mother is still alive. But there is a particular experience that we have when our parents transition. We are never the same. A parent who has had a child transition before them, it is a particular experience. You are never the same. A part of you, particularly mothers, that has come through you. My grandmother has not been the same since my father died. And so I'm bringing this into your awareness because what it really is all of these experiences, the mother, the sister who is now raising the children who will not have their biological mother, but they will be mothered. I have been deeply mothered all my entire life. And my mother happened to live in New York, and I was raised in Los Angeles with my father. But at no point, whether it was her or the women in my life that were adults that nurtured me, I was always mothered. The universe always provides the mother-father vibration and frequency to all of us. It's always happening. We're the ones that limit it to a narrow definition of the person who particularly provided you with the gene connection. But many of our mothers or we know people who were not mothering. We have many of us who have had fathers who were not fathering. So one of the things that we do, we have to break these paradigms. We have to break these limited ideas that we have of a thing. So again, back to initiation. The experiences that we have in this world are our initiation. We get to choose which way we go. So many people know about fraternities or sororities or sacred organizations like the Masons, and you hear different stories about ancient traditions and mystery schools in Egypt and Kemet, and there was an initiation. Some of these things we go through willingly, some of them we go through and we don't realize that we should bring our consciousness to it, but we learn new practices. So the initiation that you're going through, it's all around you. Look at the change in the political climate that our world is experiencing. But the political climate doesn't come out of nowhere. The political climate is the aroma from what's going on in the citizenry. And the things that have been happening in our world, in our country, are now outpicturing up there. But they were happening in the soil. The things that people were telling other groups of people that were happening, women were telling men that these things are happening to them. Black people were telling white people that these things were happening to them. Asian people were telling black people that these things are happening to them. And whatever group that you were a part of, the supervisors were being told by their staff members that these things were happening to them, and people were not listening. We did not take people seriously, or we did not value them into such a way that we would want to stand for them. And so our world is getting a hyper initiation into transformation. Because the whole thing about initiation is you go through the initiation process, and then on the other side of it, you are born again. This is what the Christians teach when they talk about being born again. The spiritual aspect of your consciousness is never the same. You cannot re-enter into the womb, is what the scripture says, but you consciously can go through a rebirth where you do not see the world the same, where the things that you think, the things that you value, all completely change. Where you invest your time, your talents, your gift, how you are able to do it, the ability, the strength, and the power that you have, the fortitude that is welled up within you because you are able to do something that you have never done before. You're able to conceive of ideas that you have never conceived of before. You're willing to do it. I don't know about you, but right now, this is where I see myself going as an initiate. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the thing. After it happens to you, you get to decide whether you're going to evolve or be contracted, constricted, and just a victim to the thing. Because something difficult is going to happen to everyone. Let's do that again. Something difficult is going to happen to everyone. That's so funny. You guys are hilarious. But it is. Whether it's economics, whether it's your finances, whether it's a heartbreak, whether it's deceit, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, whether it's your house, whether it's a foreclosure, whether your apartment manager sells the building you live in and doesn't tell you, or you rent from somebody, like, there are just things that happen in our world, and you have to recognize that not a single one of them, not a single thing comes into your life that you cannot handle. You who received it maybe in the moment were not fully equipped for what it was, but that thing breaks you open, unleashes within you a power, a potential. You now become that which you have never been before, and so from that moment on, you are new. So when they talk about a new creature, when they talk about a new creation, when they talk about the thing that has never been before, our world needs to go through this so that we can get on the other side of it. But only conscious, illuminated, elevated, expanded people will be able to get to the other side of it and be able to breathe. Otherwise, you're constricted. So my invitation to you is simple. Are you interested in living a legacy? Are you?
Yes.
Are you willing to initiate now?
Yes.
When is the only time you can do anything?
Now.
When?
Now.
When?
Now.
So what we do now is what matters. Listen to the stories, but don't live them again. Listen to the experience, but don't be able to articulate story to somebody else and even feel the emotions of it. But know that you are no longer back there. You are no longer living that then. This whole room has been initiated. Our whole country is being initiated. Our whole world is being initiated. And we are the ones that are going to go through it consciously. We don't have to preach. We don't have to evangelize. We don't have to pull down anything. We don't have to knock over anything. All we do is we live it. And like we talked about in the prayer, we illuminate and radiate the true infinite possibilities that people can go through anything and come out smelling good, looking good, feeling good, dancing good, whatever it is that you do. And you can allow it to be so as you. Are you in?
Yes.
Let's do it now. We can do it, people. We're doing it, aren't we? We're on the other side of it, aren't we? And every day we're on the other side of it. No, sit down. Thank you. So I'm going to seal this real quick because I know that there's a lot shifting. There's a lot of energy going on. There was a lot of energy here. We've got a couple minutes, but just turn within just for a moment. I just seal in our awareness right now the truth of the word that has come forward. The truth of our initiation. This initiation is not something we planned for, not something we anticipated, but I know that everything is all good and all God, and that is not a throwaway statement. That is a statement of truth. I have a greater realization of what it means to be all good, all God. I have a greater expansion of my beingness in the all goodness and the all godness of creation, so that I don't deny the experiences of life. And so in this moment, I bless everyone. I bless everyone here, and by extension, all of our families, all of our friends, all of our colleagues, our coworkers, our family members, everyone that is connected to us, our neighbors, whoever. Let the radiant joy, the radiant beauty, the radiant healing, the radiant energy of possibilities, the radiant energy of more than enough, the abundant, the affluence, the exorbitant love of God as our lives be the truth of our existence even now. We know that this is so. We know it is so as the legacy that we leave upon the earth. Everywhere that we go, even before we leave the body temple, just because we've left a room, the room is a better place. Just because we drove through a neighborhood, the neighborhood is at a better place. Our legacy is that every place that we go, everywhere that we go, all that we do, it is better because we have been there. It is better because we accept consciously our initiation and will never be limited again. I declare that it is so, and we simply allow it to be. And so it is.
So it is.
Amen.
Amen.
So our ushers are going to come forward in a moment. And before you get too far into your purse or your wallet, I just want to invite you to contemplate what you're called to share with this community. It's our time of giving and circulation of our energetic, which we call money. It's our opportunity to sow seeds into the world. And we're going to do this in such a way that we recognize the gift that Soul Center is to our lives. So whether it's today or it's next week or January when we get ready for the anniversary celebration, we are recognizing that this community is a gift to our lives. And so in the gift that we give today is commensurate with our appreciation for Soul Center. And we continue to up-level our lives outside of Soul Center so that we can support the greater expansion of this community. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows back today. Soul Center has a whole lot more rows in it. And so we're growing, we're expanding, and we're becoming more of ourselves. So the ushers are going to go forward. Give your best.